Can everybody hear me okay? Is there any issues at all? We good? All right, Nike, ICPT, KHC, cool. All right, I'll keep these in mind. Over the tickers that you've made big gains on. So I'll cover some of those things towards the end. But for the most part, I wanted to really just focus this on the Tradingview platform and just making sure that you guys understand it and you can find your way through it and add new things to it. I don't use a whole lot of the advanced features. Like I said, you know, guys that have been in the squad for a long time know me, and the simplicity is what really serves me. So I don't try to overcomplicate the process. I don't try to, you know, throw on all the bells and whistles. I keep it really, really simple on all of my charts, and operate that way. So anyhow, with Tradingview itself, right? So just sort of starting in, let's just start in the corners of these columns, right? So over here on this right column is you're going to have your watch list. Now you can create several different watch lists and save them week by week based on sector, however you want to do it, right? So you're going to basically, you'll add the symbol by, let's just say, right? Somebody said Nike. So let's just say Nike. Right? I think that added it. Let me see here. Bad example. Oh, I see. Okay, so here, right? So this is gonna, you click on this side, this little crosshairs, it's gonna take you to the symbol. But if you hit the up key and you hit enter, boom. So that's going to give you the plus sign, and then you're going to be able to add that to your watch list, right? So I just added that to the watch list. Now choose change in tickers. Let's just say, I don't know, let's like Visa, right? So come in here to Visa, same thing, hit that up arrow plus enter, and that's going to give me the option that I can add that to the watch list too, right? So now you have these on here. You can name it whatever you want, right? You could just go here, create new list, import a list from somewhere else. You can look at a green list, a red list, however you want to do it. It's a good way to stay organized. And the thing is about watch list, you know, and I covered this in one of the other trainings about creating a weekly watch list, is keep your watch list small. The beauty of the screeners is that it gives you a large selection of things to look at. But then when you get, let's say you run the screener and now you've got 100 some odd stocks, your job is to really narrow that down to say 10% of whatever that number is, right? So if you've got 200 different stocks there, you really want to be looking at between 1% and 10% of that total list. So on a daily basis, I'm looking at the overall market for sure. But in terms of looking at opportunities, I'm looking at maybe 3, maybe 4 stocks, and that's it. You're going to leave money on the table. You're going to miss opportunities. It's a given. You're not going to be able to catch everything that blows up in the market. And a lot of the times, if it blows up, just leave it be. Don't even chase it, because it's not worth losing your money over. Look, I've blown up several accounts chasing plays, and I'm sure that you guys have too. And in a sense of like, blowing up your account is a rite of passage into the market, right? It teaches you what it means to lose. It humbles you, and it gives you the mental fortitude and the discipline to just check yourself, if you will. So keep your watch list small. And if you want that refresher on the watch list of building that, where to look, how to look, things I look for, the way that I put things on the watch list, go back and watch those trainings on the watch list. I have all of my trainings pinned in the research admin channel that I just updated. So go and watch that. Now, the thing that I want to do on that trading list actually is to almost transcribe it in a sense of put a topic summary underneath each of those headings of my training doc, so things are just easier to find for you guys, so you know what I'm talking about in the video and when I'm talking about it. But it's just time consuming is all, to go back to all of those and to do that for you. But I'm going to work on it. So I want to make things easier for you guys. I want to make things sufficient and functional to where you guys can find things easier. But anyhow, that's how you add things to your watch list. It's a really good tool to keep for yourself, right? And then for your your widgets, and so that's down here in this little box down here, right? So for the ticker that I'm looking at is gold. That's one of the plays that I'm in for options. So you can customize these widgets of whatever you want to put on the side, right? You can put the bid ask, you can put the price ranges too if you want. I never changed any of this stuff. This is just all on here by default for me. And then the advanced view is just gonna give you a different view of that altogether, the watch list, right? It's just going to maximize the screen and tell you where they're at in terms of the, you know, the breakdowns, the pie charts of the sectors, the financials, and then it's going to do a comparison side by side of all of the things that are on your watch list. So it's a really good tool to use. And then it's going to take the third party news sources, right? And it's gonna list everything that has Nike in the news, everything that has Visa in the news, or whatever else is on your watch list, right? And that's it for the advanced view. Now for the alerts side of things, this is where you can really improve your trading and your investing, right? You can't be everywhere all at once. And look, the whole reason why I know a lot of you trade and why a lot of you invest is to free up your time, right? So this is what your alerts do. It frees up your time. So the thing that you really need to do when you're doing the alerts is you need to know your stock chart. Whatever it is you're looking at, whatever trades are on your watch list, you need to know them well enough to where if you just got a single alert, you would know what's happening on your chart without ever looking at it, right? And the beauty of the alerts is that you need to teach yourself shorthand form writing, right? You're not going to give yourself a long 3-page dissertation on your stocks when the alerts trigger, right? You're just giving yourself little notes. Maybe it's, look, crossing over 1745, buy at 1749. Whatever it is that you want to do, that's going to give yourself the notes. And think of it like this. Think of it like when you see that alert, you know, if you have your alerts synced to your watch, like I have a Garmin running watch. So all of the emails that come through my phone, text messages, it also syncs to my watch. And when it syncs to the watch, you know, the screen is so small. So it's only gonna give you a couple of words. You know, you're only gonna see that the first couple of words of everything, even when you get the Discord notifications from us when we're in trades, right? So when I type the things that I do, I try to always type the attention getters or the things that are, you know, trade idea. Then it's gonna give you that short form notification to where if you just look down at your watch, like, oh, Michael's posting a trade idea, this and this and this, whatever, right? So these alerts are going to tell you what to do, but you have to do the guidance on it. You have to direct it of what you want to happen, right? So you can do this 2 ways. You can create the alerts here, right? You just create the alert this way, and you can say whatever you want, right? So just looking, and to minimize the screen, you just click back on it again, right? You just click it once and then you click on it again and it minimizes it. So let's just say, for instance, here. So I had an alert actually on this already. So I was knowing when to get in and when it was going to hit targets. I had an alert here at 1743, I think it was. I can't see it exactly. I think it's down here in my log. Yeah. So crossing up from 1743. That's my alert that I wanted to know, because that's the threshold of knowing when that's going to run to the next price target, right? When it's going to fill that next gap. I wanted to know every time that it crosses up above that. So in this scenario, let's just say we're going to create another one. So you can create one by this, by the plus sign, or what you can do is you can just come over here and you have this little plus sign, right? And let's just say we're going to create one right here at 1766. And I say 1766 just for the base of this right here, the base of the green candle of where this opened, right? So add alert at 1766. Now you have, you've got the sell one gold and you've got the buy one gold, right? So you can do this if your brokerage is synced with TradingView. Now, it doesn't allow you to sync major brokerages and things like that. It's a lot of smaller third-party brokerages that sync with TradingView. So I don't ever use these two, but you go to add the alert, and then from here, double click it. And then this gives you the chance to be able to fine tune what it is you're actually looking for, right? So you can do crossing, crossing up, crossing down, greater than. If it's inside a channel, maybe it's entering it, maybe it's exiting. If it's outside the channel, however you want to do these, right? So for me, I'm usually doing crossing up or crossing down. That's usually what I'm doing. So for this one, crossing up, you put your price point. Now, if you didn't get it accurate over here, you can make it accurate here. You know, you just input, let's say, and I didn't want it at 1766, I wanted it at 1770, right? So it's going to do that. And I want to see it triggered every time. I want to be alerted every time when it triggers. Now, you can name it. I don't really name it every time. Now, for this, gold crossing up 1770, I don't need the gold in there, right? Because when it comes up and it alerts you on your phone or on your watch, it's already going to tell you gold. It's going to give you that alert already. So with that, crossing up at 1770, you could say buy two options, two contracts, whatever, right? Two contracts. You could say buy two contracts, buy two, let's say 616. I'm just putting random numbers in here. $20 contracts, right? That's your entry point. Or you could just say entry 616 $20 calls, right? Whatever message you want to give it, and then you save it. And then every time that it crosses that, it's going to tell you to buy those. And you can, sorry, I wanted to show one more thing on the alerts too. Oh yeah, notifications, right? So here, so you can notify in the app if you have the app on your phone. You could show the pop-up. You could have it send you an email. It could send you a certain URL request. It'll end up playing a sound. You can have it send the email to your phone. So here's the thing. You have no excuses to miss trades or to miss opportunities if you're doing them, right? If you're alerting yourself, you can literally do this, right? So let's just say you've entered at 1743, and let's just say we want to exit at 1770 where we hit this alert at, right? So let's just change this. Let's change the alert to say exit gold, contracts, and shares, right? For whatever, maybe it hits your price target. You could say gold price target 2. and you could say exit contracts and shares. Boom. So that's your exit point, right? It's going to give you the opportunity of putting this on your chart, notifying yourself. You should be able to put your alerts in that cater to you, that tell you exactly what to do, when to do it. The thing that you just have to know is how to, you need to know the story of your chart. What is it saying? What's the arc of everything, right? You need to know the backstory of that, so that way it doesn't confuse you. The alerts give you the ability to leverage technology and put it to your advantage, right? You don't need to stare at the charts all day. You can literally automate a lot of your trades by doing things like this. And even the same thing in your brokerage. I use Charles Schwab primarily. I also use Robinhood and Webull. Now you can order whatever you want ahead of time at a certain price, right? If you want to, let's just say the share price is at 1742, but you want to buy it at 1750. So you can automatically go into Webull, go into Robinhood, go into Schwab, buy it, but set it at a limit price and put your limit at 1750. And what that's saying, and you're going to do a buy to open. And what that's saying is the most amount of money that you're willing to pay for this is 1750, or and if you're selling it, you're hitting sell to close, you're going to do the limit price for the same. And that's just saying this is the least amount of money I'm willing to accept for this particular trade. So you can automate your entries and exits. And after you buy to open, then you go to sell to close, right? And let's just say you want to get out at 1770. Now, let's just say you bought 100 shares, right? To get out of that, and if you put in that market order to say, I'm going to sell, let me just sell 80% of my shares, right? So you're going to do a market order. You're going to open it again, another order, and you're going to set a limit price at 1770 to sell 80 shares, right? And you're going to do that at a limit price. And then you're going to do you could do it two ways. You could do a good until canceled or a end of the day, right? The good until canceled will stay valid for 60 days. That means you don't ever have to go back and manually do it. You could be sleeping and, whatever else you want to do. When it hits the 1770, your brokerage is automatically going to sell those 80 shares because you told it to in your market order, right? But if you sell those 80 shares at that exit point at the 1770, then you're only going to have 20 shares left to really do anything. Say you want to sell it earlier, or you want to do something else with it. You can make another order for whatever shares you want to sell, but just know you're only going to have 20. Yes, you own 100 shares and you haven't sold them at 1770 yet, but because you put an order in for 80 shares, you're only going to be left with 20. So, if you want to sell it before 1771, maybe you want to sell 10, you're only going to have 20 shares left to be able to do something with, right? And that's the same with contracts also. So use these alerts to your advantage to be able to automate your trades ahead of time, right? And if you're trading options, you can use the options profit calculator as a guide. It's not a real-time data, and it's a reference tool. It's just a thing to help you navigate your trades. There's a lot that it doesn't take into consideration, but if you can just have a general ballpark idea of where your trades could go and where they could be in terms of monetary value, then you can better structure the alerts on your chart, right? And you shouldn't be afraid to mark up your charts. Mark them up, put notes on there for you, because it's your chart. You got to be able to look at your charts and understand what it is that you're looking at. So this is where you can utilize Tradingview on the alert side of things, and then over here on the drawing side, and then the text side of things of, if you're looking at the charts. But solely speaking here that you're not able to watch the charts every day, maybe you've got a full-time job that's on your feet all the time, and you got to be bouncing around. It doesn't matter if you write yourself 20 alerts on here. I would rather be annoyed by the 20 alerts constantly going off on my phone or on my watch than to lose money on trades, than to miss an opportunity, right? It's a small price to pay for an opportunity that could really elevate your skill sets. So leverage the alerts. They're super helpful. I use them all the time. Everybody follow me? Let me just go back up here through some of these notes real quick. Angie says, are you paying for this service? Yeah, so I pay for the premium service of Tradingview, and I would recommend it. You don't have to. Just know that if you don't, you just have limited access to things. But for me, I want to have as much stuff in my toolbox as possible, and that really means real-time data. I only use Tradingview to trade in real time. Like when I really need to set certain levels and see where the charts are, see where the stock is going. This is what I use Tradingview for. And then I use stock charts to really look at the bigger picture of the stock charts, because it doesn't have as clean of a look as Tradingview doesn't have as clean of a look as what stock charts does. So I use them interchangeably. I pay for both of them, and don't look at it as an expense. I know, not everybody in the Wealth Squad is totally affluent and financially free, and some people are struggling to put things together. But look, all of the tools that you're using, Tradingview, stock charts, your algos, your algorithms or whatever, your cheddar flow and all this stuff, Morningstar, all of these subscriptions that you're paying for are investments into yourself. And all it takes is one trade to pay for all of these things. So, and you might get that in a week. So use it as a tool, and if you can't afford it, there's a ton of free things out there that you're able to utilize, right? It just makes it a little harder. If you don't have the means to pay for the elite service in Tradingview, then, I think you can only get 2 charts at a time. I'm not sure of all of the parameters of that, but little by little you build on top of that, right? Whenever you are in a better financial position to pay for it. But it's totally worth it if you utilize the resources that are in there and utilize the tools to your advantage. It's totally worth it. Orb says, when the RSI has been hot or cold on the daily and weekly candles for some time, when is the right time to pull the trigger? And how do I know it's a good time to take profits? I typically swing for a couple of weeks max. Orb, I have a training for entries and exits. It's on that Google Doc that is in the research admin. Go and watch that, because I talk about all of that. Zach says, TD Ameritrade's Thinkorswim, you can set it up to 6 charts. Yeah, so a lot of those do offer you that. And for Tradingview specifically, you can add up to 8 charts, right? You click this little square up here, and then this is your layout. You can do up to 8 charts here. And then you can sync it however you want in terms of time, the interval, the symbols itself. And usually what you write on one chart, like if you put a certain indicator on gold that I'm on now, and then you compare it with SPY or whatnot, those charts are all going to sync together to where you're not adding all of the indicators over and over again for each chart. It should all sync together. I don't need to look at 8 charts at a time. There's a lot of people who do, they have those massive screens, but this is too much for me. I have no reason to look at this many stocks at one time. I enjoy my sanity and my peace. And this is, to me, looking at 8 charts simultaneously, it's a lot of brain space that it takes to do all of that and to know the levels, know where they're at, comparing the two. It's just a lot. So I'm not really interested in doing 8 charts at a time now, but you can do this, and you can do it however you want, but this is a really condensed version. Now, if you have another monitor, then you can overextend this and make it all bigger. But for me, I might look at 4. 4 is usually the max for me. Because why? Because it's a bigger view, it's clean. I can see all the levels, I can see the setups. It's easy to understand when there's 4. Anything beyond 4 for me is too much. So that's utilizing this feature up here, which is also highly recommended. And regardless of if you're trading options or you're trading stocks or investing in either one, you should always be comparing whatever it is you're entering to SPX and SPY. You should be watching those simultaneously because those are the market. And you need to ask yourself, is your stock moving hand in hand with SPY and SPX, or is it moving against it? Like when SPY was tanking, gold was running, right? Gold, energy, oil, gas, all of those things don't run hand in hand with SPY. It usually, when SPY is tanking, those things are usually going up. And when SPY is going up, those are really going up. So it just, you have to know the personality profiles of the charts that you're looking at to be able to, cater the setups to where you want them to be. Or the levels of where you're hoping it will go, right? So that's using this multi-screen tool. Super helpful. The next one here, so this is just the data window. Hold on one second. So this is the data window. That just gives the basic data about the ticker itself, right? And now if you unhide these things, it tells you what the EMA and the MA, the moving average, the exponential moving average crossover is. So it's telling you that the moving average is at 1843 and the exponential moving average is at 1867, right? So those two are going to merge at that time, right? And then, you've got the Ichimoku, you've got time frame continuity, you can show that data. Right, and this is all the day inside, the week inside, outside. So these are, the time frame continuity. This all here is all strat related stuff. And in terms of switching these colors so you can see them, you just switch the settings. That's all for those. But you can choose what you want to see and what you don't just by clicking on the eyes over here, right? So that's the MACD crossover. And then I also had the ATR down here, which is the average true range. And we know as soon as when that MACD curls, that's when a lot of the stocks start to run and start to have the strong momentum to the upside, right? So that's the data window. Now coming over here to the hot list. So the hot list is like the market's summary of what's basically happened for the day. And then you can change this based on the exchanges itself, right? But it's really looking at what the volume gainers are. You can't change this aspect of it, but this is what the preset is of it, looking at just volume and just the percentage change, right? So UCAR went crazy today. So it's only going to list, well, it's actually going to list a lot, and it's all going to be, usually it's in descending order most of the time, but sometimes it's not. In the event of this one's kind of scattered all over the place. But that's the hot list tab, right? And then so for this other side one, gives you the economic calendar and the earnings calendar. So this keeps you on top of what's happening in the market, potential earnings that are coming up. So this is a really good tool to have also for yourself. TradingView is going to give you everything. It's just not as clean. It's just not as clean as using some of the other sources like, say, FinViz or CSNBC. It's just going to be on a condensed version, right? And some of these screens you can enlarge them. On some of these smaller ones you can't. So it's just this little side scroll bar where you're coming down this way to be able to look at it, right? You're down here in the earnings calendar. So these are all the things, you know, and usually if you scroll to the left, there's more over this way, but there's nothing. So this is only 4 columns, 4 columns up here for the calendar, 3 columns for the economic calendar. Sorry, economic calendar has 4 columns. The earnings calendar has 3 columns. B says you have the money flow set up on this. I was looking at it. I've actually been talking to Gerald back and forth for a little bit. I've been working on trying to write a money flow script to where it pinpoints these opportunities. But there's a lot of data that you have to take into consideration, so it's not entirely accurate. And I've looked at the ones that are on here, the money flow, and it's not very good, to be honest. It's not Uncle Gerald's. Maybe they knew who he was and they tried to write one too, but it's not very good. I go and I pick and I play with some of these indicators from time to time just to see what they are. And look, I keep things simple, but also at the same time, I also like to add new things from time to time just to learn other things and to look at different strategies. How do they relate to my own? There are a lot of really great tools on Tradingview. So for this side, so this is the ideas. This is where you're going to publish things for this, because Tradingview, it also has a community. This is where you're going to post trade ideas and sort of publish them in like a blog format, if you will, right? And then you can sync all of those things together. And then for the minds, this is what people are going to be talking about in relationship to your stock. It's not very current. There's not a whole lot of chatter that goes on this, but you can look at the current symbol, or then you can open it up to look at everything. So you see that there's only the chatter on the gold itself, right? But it's important to look at these things sometimes, read through them. There's always a lot of BS and there's a lot of garbage, but look at what people are saying, because you can also end up finding new trades and new opportunities by reading, what people are saying, or, if they give you an idea from something that they said, it just spawns creativity and it spawns new opportunities when you're engaging with the community. And same thing, I encourage you guys to engage within the Wealth Squad community too. You have almost 22,000 people in the squad. Every day, I'd say probably 10%, between 2,000 to 3,000 people every day who are very active. So leverage that, because when you're looking at 2,000 to 3,000 people, and let's just say if you leverage that every day and it gave you 2 opportunities, your opportunities are going to move exponentially, not numerically. So tap into the Discord and tap into what people are saying. And if you do, right, you can use this search bar up here, right? So this is just how I check how, so I know when you guys are tagging me in things, right, that I just put my name in the search bar and that mentions, and then I'm hitting enter, and then everything shows up, right, that you guys post, that you tag me in, and then I try to go in and answer them. So I encourage you to use that search bar. I'm astonished, actually, a lot of the times when I find my trades and then I go in the search bar to look for them in the squad to see what people are saying, and nobody's talking about them at all. So I do that due diligence, not all the time, but a lot of the times I will go into the squad and see what you guys are talking about, if it's on anybody's radar. Because if I get into trades that other people are already talking about, they've already brought to light, I also like to give credit to those people. So I use that search bar religiously. So I encourage you guys to do the same. But it's the Minds tool is a really good tool to use. And then you can come over here to the chats also, and it's the same thing. This one is a little bit more current, right? And it does move pretty quick sometimes. But it's going to give you a sense of what's being talked about. Now, this is just, it's not just related to gold. It's related to everything. So again, use the chats to your advantage. But like I said, you have to be able to have the blinders on for some of the BS and the noise that's out there. I don't listen to all the noise. If people are starting to freak out about something, I end up leaving the conversation or just leaving the room because it doesn't ever serve you. Usually, it's interesting. Some of the trades that we've had, you'll go and look at on the chat forums on, say, Twitter or Reddit, and you got everyone trashing it. Oh, this is Macy's is a piece of trash and blah, blah, blah. And this company sucks and da, 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 da. But then if it runs up the next day, they're like, oh yeah, I told you so. It's great. I'm holding it for this long and blah, 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 blah. And so everyone switches their tune just based on the sentiment of where it's going. But what we train in the squad and what we hope that you guys get out of what we teach is that you'll be able to silence that noise and be disciplined in your approaches to trading and investing, and not panic in those moments, right? When the whole market was getting trashed and beat up, everyone's panicking. But why panic? You should want the market to burn. You should want the market to go down to the discounted prices, because it's just going to give you an opportunity to buy more, right? You want it at the lowest price. You want things at the lowest price. You don't want it at the highest price, right? Anybody can make money when the market is going up, but the real testament to you as a trader, you as an investor, is going to be when the market's getting beat up. What's your character in those situations? That's going to determine how successful you really are, in my opinion. So find whatever it is for yourself that gives you that anxiety, that gives you that that makes you uncomfortable, if you will, right? And work on those aspects of yourself in relationship to the market to be able to have that the supreme confidence and just the diligence, consistent diligence, right? I say this in the trades that I got into, is that I don't care how much money I leave on the table, right? Look, if gold hit 1742, that was my price target. I'm taking profits, right? Now I'm waiting for it to hit 1789. Will it hit it? I don't know. I'm a wizard, but I'm not a wizard, right? But if it hits 1789, I don't care if it goes to 20. I don't care if it goes to 18. When it goes to 1789, that was my target. I'm out. I'm moving on to the next one. I'm unfazed by the losses that I take because I'm committed to my plan. It's not always going to go my way, but if you practice good discipline with your plan, like I know my range, 1742 to 1789, but if this trade is up 90% and it's falling and it's falling and it's falling, I'm going to take profits and get out. I'm not going to hold on to it to make a winning trade become a loser, right? So silence the noise of everybody else and focus on your plan. Focus on your intuition, right? There's all this talk about AI and it overtaking everything, right? And everybody's fearful of it. Look, the greatest leverage that we have over AI is human intuition. AI will never be able to duplicate human intuition ever. I don't care how advanced it is. If you don't start leaning into your intuition and don't start trusting it, when you get all of this AI stuff coming into the space, you're going to be the one left behind. You're going to be the one that gets exposed in your workplace because your work ethic isn't good enough. That's what all of this is. That's what all the panic is, right? People are panicking about it because of having bad work ethics and not being, not having a optimal performance, right? There's a lot of great things that you can utilize that for. So in that scenario, when everyone's freaking out about AI and all this stuff, I'm not. You know, I work in the entertainment industry, and so there's all this talk about AI overtaking the screenwriters and the films and writing scripts. Again, it's not going to supersede human intuition, and it's never going to supersede the human touch that you need for. You look at guys like Chris, Gerald, Ian Dunlap. AI is never going to duplicate these people. Yeah, you can duplicate their voice and all that stuff, but you're never going to duplicate where they're at and what they teach and how they teach it, how they pull the trigger on things. There's an element to you as a human that supersedes everything. And your greatest tool in life is your intuition and your confidence. And all of that comes through your preparation and using the tools that are at your fingertips, right? So don't listen to the noise. Engage in the chats, go there, look and see what people are talking about. And sometimes, look, doing the opposite is what pays you the most. So anyhow, that's a tool that you can use on this chat side of it, right? And not just with TradingView, this chat side, utilize the Discord, utilize Twitter. Twitter is huge. I find numerous opportunities through Twitter. And it's one of the number one news source in the world. It's where things move very quickly. And I say that too, just as being a producer in the entertainment industry, it was always the place where we went to look for information, for stories, for ideas, for creativity. So utilize the resources and the technology that's at your fingertips. That was a little long-winded on that part of it, but let me come back. Let me back up for a second. I want to come through some of these questions. Yeah, Tiara says the Yahoo chat is the craziest. It's so true. Dan says, who do you follow on Twitter that provides quality tickers and analysis? I don't have them off the top of my head. Nobody on Twitter really offers like the quality tickers per se, but I engage. Look, whenever people tweet stuff, I go deep into the comments. I'll go 4 or 5 pages deep in comments and look and see what people are saying. And then if there's some sort of an idea or there's some sort of fact that they list, I'll go and I'll cross-reference it to, the data source, and I'll go look at the charts and I'll go and study it and see if it actually makes sense to me. Look, just because people say stuff on the internet doesn't make it true. So you also, just because somebody says something, you should also be cross-referencing and validating what they're saying and looking at yourself, say, do I believe this? Is this something that I see? Do I see what they see? Yeah, but I'll share some of the people that I do follow. I'll drop it in the squad. I'll drop it in the squad at some point within these next couple of days. If I have, I'll go through my list and share those with you guys. The next one is, so for the idea stream. So obviously, because I didn't make any ideas, this is going to be empty, but this is where all of that stuff would go, right? The idea stream is like the timeline of when you're publishing things, how you're publishing. And so it sort of lays it out for you, right? And you can start to see this, and it's not just your ideas, it's other people's, right? It's going to give you the timeline of how all of that's laid out for you, right? And then for the live shows, right? This is just another news source for you, another resource for you to tap in to stock market related things. There's a lot of really talented people in the Discords, on TradingView. that know their stuff. So, you know, it might be helpful for you to tap in with these from time to time, right? Different live shows, but this is just a real time live stream in the same way that Kia streams and does everything on Twitch. You can also do this via Tradingview. And then you've got your notifications. And so anything that you've set up as alerts, anything that you've put in there for yourself to be notified of, this is where that log is going to, this is where the log is going to be at, right? And then so you can look at your order panel now. So like I said, this was going to connect it to the broker, and it's just the third party. Yes. Yep. You can connect this to the broker, but like I said, it's a smaller, smaller companies that you're able to do that, right? And so log into your broker account. You have to do this from the actual like homepage. And then, right. And so if you're connected, this is where you would buy and sell things, right? This is where you would input all of this data, your limit prices, and do it this way. But you can do this in a similar fashion using Thinkorswim. I believe you can do it through Webull too when you're charting right away. I don't really use I don't ever use Thinkorswim, but Webull, I don't really use the desktop version, but I think the desktop version allows you to do this also. And most of the brokerages have a similar feature too. And then, then you have just your object tree of all of the things that are listed on your chart in terms of indicators and all that stuff, right? And what's hidden. It's basically going to be everything that's right here, right? You look at that, you see it's basically the same exact thing here. So this is just a different way to get to it, right? I can see. Tiara says, do you see potential for gold to keep going beyond your price targets? Yes. Yeah, you know, the thing is that what I put out today about gold and oil and gas, even the banks, the financial space, the banks are actually starting to run too as well. And with this in general, like, look, I'm only playing this in the short term, but the general idea is that if you get into these trades, right, your target maximum, you know, you can basically run this back up to the 20, which is about 1842. And you see, right, you see exactly where this 20 is. It's the base of this candle, and it's where all of these sit. So if you wanted to hold it beyond 1789, 1842 is the next target. So that's where it's at on that. But I may, depending on the momentum and how it moves, I may hold some contracts beyond 1789. It's just all relative to how it moves and how the market responds to it. But if you look at all of the gold setups, gold related setups in that space, all of them have similar setups, and all of them look like they're ready to run with a lot of really great momentum. So chances are it's going to move past 1789, but we'll see. Nobody knows for sure. There was another question too. Can we look at the MU chart? I see a gap to fill, but I'm wondering, how do we decide the best entry point? So I'll come back to MU, Tiara, but I'll load it on here though. Bloomberg or MSNBC? I'd probably say MSNBC. They're look, it's all regurgitated information between all of them. They're all just going to regurgitate what each of them say. CSNBC and MSNBC are probably the ones that I follow the most. I don't really listen to Bloomberg a whole lot. but they all just regurgitate the same thing over and over, pretty much. Jason says you need to stream on Twitch. I think I'm going to. Look, I got a lot of ideas for the Wealth Squad and growth and just being more out there with you guys, right? I want to really focus on the education aspect of things. So I may actually start streaming soon. I have a Twitch set up. I'll drop it. I think Ender and Gullah posted it in the Wealth Squad too with my socials. But I have a Twitch set up. I don't even know how to use the damn thing. Okay, so Rocco says, how do you add indicators on Tradingview like breakout? Yeah, so this is what I'm going to cover now, right? So here up at the top, this is obviously going to, anytime you want to add a stock, you can either just click this part right here, or you can hit just that plus sign. Either one of these, it's gonna where you have the symbol. So the plus sign is a comparison, right? So like I was saying, you got to watch SPY and SPX. So we're looking at MU, we're looking at Micron. So let's just compare it to SPY. And it's not going to be the same, but right. So this is where SPY was at in terms of it closing. MU is up 25% more than where SPY is at right now, right? So that's what that comparison is. So the thing with Tradingview is it's not necessarily a clean land. It's got percentages a lot of the time. So you got to know what you're looking at and how to interpret the data. But you can put the comparisons on here. You just command Z if you got a MacBook to just take that off that's just a shortcut, right? Then over here you have your time frames. I generally do everything on the day chart. Everything on the day chart for me, that's where I get all of my levels. And then from the day chart, when I see what's possible during a day, that's when I go back to the lower time frames, a 4 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, whatever else, right? But generally all of my trades, I'm always looking at the day chart. I'm very rarely trading smaller time frames. But again, I did a training on trading the different time frames. So with that being said, you just have to understand what is the language that's being said on a day chart? What's the language that's being said on a 30-minute chart? It's completely different. You'll get on a 30-minute chart and then be stopped out of your trade early. But then on the day chart, there's a whole wealth of possibility for this to run even further. So you got to understand what you're looking at on smaller time frame and why you're trading smaller time frames. So yeah, go back and watch that training. It's in the research admin on the Google Doc. That'll help you understand all of that. So this becomes your candlesticks, however you want to do it, right? You could do the candles. If you're old school, like Uncle Gerald, he does the bars a lot. It's all different. It's personal preference up to you, right? You've got the hollow candles, right? You've got columns that you can put on there. You've got the lines. We'll put the lines with the markers. You could do that for the open and closing. It's all relative to what you want, right? The step lines, the area. You could do the Heiken. A lot of people trade with the Heiken-Ashis, and maybe this is a training I actually maybe that I do later too, because I think that this is useful to cover the Heiken-Ashis. So this is also another. It's just a different way to read the candles in relationship to how you normally do it with just the regular candlesticks, right? So you have some of these other strategies, the Renko, you've got the line break. This is where you toggle all of that stuff. So it's up to you, however you want to customize your chart, right? That makes sense to you. So I'm going to switch this back to candles. And then from here, this little tab up here is, I'm sorry, that's wrong one. Candles, switch that back. This one here, this little this little chart. So this is where you add your indicators. This is where you can favorite the indicators you have. This is where you can write your own scripts, in terms of things that, if there's indicators that aren't quite hitting what you want them to, then you can start to include your own scripts and writing these strategies for yourself. And then you end up sharing it with the community. So you can write those scripts. So it says the Pine script here. So this is your Pine editor down here. This is where you end up writing your scripts. And this is where you'll do your strategies. And then obviously this chart is all the trading panel. And then this too has a stock screener as well. It's not like a FinViz, right? So you come over here, you hit the stock screener, and you just come over here to this tab to maximize the panel, right? And so you see all your filters up here. You can do it by performance overview. You choose what you want to see on these different columns, right? So you're closing out of that. And now you can look at, whatever you want to do. You could take the change off that, change off the 1 week, change off the month, the minute, the hour, and just do a regular just change percentage. You could do it that way. Yeah. And then from here, this is going to be your day chart, right? And you can download this as well, right? You export the screener to a CSV file, which is on Excel. So you can put this into an Excel file if you want and import it that way. And then this is going to change your time frame, right? Your 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, 30, 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, day, week, and month, right? You can change that on the screener. And then from here, this is going to be the markets, whatever it is, the USA, internationally, however you want to do it, right? You can choose this to multi-select more than one, however you want to do it. So I don't like this screener in the way that I like FinViz. FinViz is where I live for the screeners, right? This is mine of where I live over here. Tradingview, I'm only really using this to map out the precise levels and things like that, right? But then you can come over here to the volume leaders. Now you can look at all of these screeners by the top gainers, top losers, all-time highs. I don't like using these preset ones because the whole market is looking at them. I take pride in finding the things that nobody's talking about, right? That's always been my shtick within the Wealth Squad, is finding trades super early before Reddit gets them, before Unusual Whales gets them. I like the Wealth Squad to get to it first, and then Reddit goes after it. Then Unusual Whales gets it, right? And we're already either we're out of the trade or we've been running it up for 3 weeks, right? That's always something I've really taken pride in within the squad. So I don't really like this Tradingview screener. It's not a clean look for me. I want things functional. I want things clean. I want things to be able that I can, sort of see these things on full screen. And this doesn't allow you to do that, right? But if I go over here to FinViz, I can see everything on full screen, right? And I can look at all of these different, I can look at all the charts on one screen in the way that I can't do this on Tradingview. So Elite, FinViz, I pay for the Elite version of that, but that's where I live for my screening, not on Tradingview. But going out of that, just come back here to minimize the panel, and that's going to close the window. Coming back here to the indicators and the strategies, right? So you can, again, you can add things to your chart based on certain strategies, right? So this is a technical strategy, right? So now you've got the Bollinger Bands. I did a lesson on the Bollinger Bands. We've done, Kia talks about the orb. So that's basically breaking out of these channels, right? So, and this inside bar strategy, that becomes strat related. The Keltner channels, I talked about those in the indicators training that I did. So you can add these strategies and then see how they perform. Add them to your chart. See how they make sense for you. And then what you can do is, let's just say we do the Bollinger Bands, right? We add this here, we hit the star. So now we can come up to favorites and everything is there. right? I just added the Bollinger Band strategy, so now that's there, right? And I don't use all of these. Some of these I've just had there, and I haven't cleaned this up. I should probably clean it up for myself, but these are all the ones that I have. So the one that has, the day, week, month, quarter, and the year. So that's your time frame continuity. That's this one here. Time frame continuity by board writer B. That's what I use. I don't use the strat, but the time frame continuity is strat related. And it just gives you the link, again, talking about the charts and the language. This puts all the language in one spot for you, so you don't have to come up here and you don't have to switch between all of the time frames. It's already this here is giving you a summary of what these charts look like. I don't need to look at that chart, right? I can look at the day chart, and if I'm, relative to your strategy, if you're day trading, then the idea is you want the day to be green or red in whatever direction you're trading it, right? If you're doing calls, or if you're shorting it, you're doing puts. In that case, you want it to be red. If you want it to be, if you want it to be bullish, then you need to make sure that the day chart is green. Or sometimes I do enter the trades early where the day chart in the week is still red, but it has enough volume and momentum that I know that it's going to push above that. It's going to push above those levels to turn it green, right? So I'll enter early. But you have to understand that if you enter trades early, if they don't break the previous highs and previous lows of the previous days, and you enter early, you have to be okay with losing your money. Every time you have to be okay with that if you enter the trades early. And whatever they break above the previous day, like for instance, Micron, right? If I'm trading options, I'm not going to enter Micron until it gets above 70.02. But that's the level of the previous day. So I'm going to give myself a cushion. I want to see, okay, can it hold 70.05, right? And if it can't hold 70.05, then I'm not going to enter it. So I might set my level at 17.05. I'm okay with giving up 3 cents to test a theory or to see if it's going to hold this level, right? So give yourself a little bit of cushion on your entries and exits. It's going to alleviate you getting out of trades early, and it's going to alleviate you exiting trades too late, So take advantage of that. But this is the time frame continuity. And then, so we got the favorites. We have those technical strategies. Now for the financials, right? So now you can basically look at all of these things also on there, right? So let's just put total revenue on there, right? So we put the total revenue. So it basically says it's $3.68 billion, right? So that just adds it in the lower corner, right? But you can add all of those things if you want to. I don't ever add any of these financial statements or anything like that stuff. Let's look at the gross profit. We'll put that on the chart. Did that show up? I don't know if it showed up. Because I just hit favorites. I hit the favorites. I didn't actually hit it. Okay, so now it's on there. So the gross profit is underneath $1 billion, right? So it's in debt, negative $1.206 billion. It's in debt. There is no profit. But that's how you add those. Come back here, stream. Carrier says, I'm still learning, but how do you sell your contracts for the max amount? I sold my last contract and instantly lost 600. You have to understand that when you sell your contracts, you're selling them if you do it on a sell to close market, you're selling your contracts at the bid price. Doesn't matter how up you are. Look, this is why you need to make sure that your bid ask spread is narrow, because let's just say your contracts are at 0.50, right? But your bid, let's just say your contracts are at 0.50 right? That's the ask price. But then let's just say the bid price is 0.35. And you're saying, okay, well, I'm up 45% now from my original entry. Maybe you entered at 0.3, or you entered at 0.2, right? So when you go to sell that, it's not going to sell it at your market price. It's going to sell it at the, it's not going to sell it at the ask price. It's going to sell it at whatever that bid price is. So that's why you want to make sure that it's a smaller window. When you trade close to expiration contracts, you don't stick to the day chart, then correct? V, I still look at the day chart. Because even though even though I have time on my contracts, I'm still only operating on a day-to-day basis. With if the week is green, the month is green, the quarter is green, the year is green, then I'm like, okay, well then there's potential that this setup is going to continue running, or it's gonna even if it goes down during the day, and if the week or the month is still up, then I have no reason to really exit the trade. I just need to wait it out. I need to weather the storm. So it's really all relative to what your entries are. Even though the time frame continuity is saying what it is, it's important to have a good entry on your trades, right? That's going to give you the leverage in terms of your return. The time frame continuity you use on day trades and swing trades. I use it for everything. It's always on my chart, always. Carrier says, how do you find stocks to view? So again, there's a training on finding the weekly trades. Go and watch that in the research admin. I talk about it. I use screeners to find my opportunities. The FinViz is where I screen those things. People are using the strat. How do they identify a number of candles? Is that an indicator 22312? Yeah, Rocco. So that's all strat related. That's all. Those are all indicators that everyone use with the strat, right? There's probably some strat indicators here. Let me see. Right? Strat. I don't. Maybe there isn't. Right? Well, you got the inside bar. Right? Let's look at the inside bar. Yeah, right. So it's got the 2 plus the 2. This is probably similar to that, but not the same to the effect. But I think a lot of the people who use the strat are using Thinkorswim most of the time, from what I gather, anyways. I don't know how many strat people use Tradingview. You could definitely ask in the options chat. Have you? So those are your indicators, how you're adding those. And these are just other templates, indicator templates based on whatever it is whatever your strategy is, right? And then again, this is a way to create the alert. And then coming over here, your quick search icon, this is your chart setting. So this little pinwheel, this is where you can decide of what you want on your chart, right? Color bar is based on the previous close if you want. I just have mine unchecked. You can change the color of what you want here, right? For each one. You can put the bid and the ask spread on there, which is also good to have sometimes. And then you can change it based on time zone, your status lines, right? Which are all of this over here. And underneath, I just have all of mine checked. And then your scales, again, the labels on the scales, the bid to ask, you can put that in there. You can change the indicators with the financials. So this is where you're going to change all these. Make sure that this is set to what makes sense to you, right? Color it however you want. make whatever transparent, whatever you want, just make sure that it makes sense to you, right? And then obviously for your trading side of it, if you have your brokerage connected, this is where you're going to do this part of it. And then the events tab is, I have, so let's look at, so this here, so this D, that's dividends, the E's earnings. This here is like news source. So that's when you go to this event setting, this is what's going to put these things on your chart for you. I always like to put these things on my chart because then when you zoom out and you look at the bigger picture, I'm looking at Micron. Well, what did Micron do last earnings, right? That it had this little run up. What did it do the earnings before? Well, it went to the downside. Okay, what did it do before that? It ran up again. So 2 out of the 3 times Micron went up during earnings. So that tells me maybe on this next one, maybe it does the same thing. So it gives you a chance to look at those trends and patterns when you do that, right? And then moving over here to the left-hand column. Now, this is an important column, right? So this is your cursors, your crosshairs. This is going to be what you see on the screen here. I like the crosshairs because it enables you to see data on both sides, whereas using the dot, it's just a little bit different in that way, right? So the crosshairs are always my choice. But if you create something and you want to move it, then the arrow is what you want to use. It's just a little bit harder for when I'm creating alerts and things like that, or I'm creating levels. Using this cursor doesn't really help me because I want the line to be across the screen. I want to be able to see all of those things. So that's why I use the crosshairs, because it gives me all this, that I can match it up with candles and create accurate levels for myself and for you guys. Then here you have your trend line tools, right? These are just drawing icons for yourself of what you want to see. So for instance, here you've got just your basic trend lines. You've got the one with an arrow, you got with the ray, your info line. So let's just say this here, right? You draw this, just draw on just a basic screen here, right? So then it's going to give you all the information for it, right? It's going to tell you what the distance is, the range of data, the degrees. It's going to give you more information, right? Coming here to like say the parallel channel. Now this is just easy drawing tools, right? You're drawing it here, and then maybe you're doing this as a box. It's an easy way to do that and to give you that range. And then the same thing here, you want to come over here to the settings and you can change it however you want. You can color it however you want, right? But these are drawing tools to help you see trends, to help you see patterns. So I encourage you to use those. Those are your trend lines. Now you have your Fibonacci tools. I don't use this all the time. The only ones that I have used are, what did I use? I really only use the fib retracement, right? So if you're here with this, so what you do, let me do that again, right? So if you just click this once, wherever, oh, I got to do it again. So you just click that there, right? You click that once, pull it to the upside, and it's going to give you all the Fibonacci levels based on however far you drag it out, right? The Fibonacci's are a really great strategy. I did a training on it, so I encourage you to watch it. And it's basically the retracement, right? If it hits each one of these is a certain level, and when it hits these, that's when you know it's going to retract. That's when you know it's going to bounce off of itself and continue to the upside or to the downside based on whatever it hits, right? So that's a good tool to use. So that's these. And then this is the brush tool. I'm using these for just, again, trying to find the boxes in consolidation. But if I'm doing that, I'm just going to use the trend line tools, right? I'm going to come up and I'm going to use one of these and do the parallel channels or vice versa, the regressions, things like that, right? What I do is drawing this again, right? So that's your brush tool. Now your text tool, again, this is going to give you the notes. This is where you can really thrive on your charts by giving yourself notes, certain comments, putting price labels. This is where you should be marking up your charts. Excuse me. This is going to give you the tools to do that. Let me come back here real quick. Make sure you guys are still following me. All right. Shout out to Gola, always helping me out in these trainings. Now, this, right, this is just going to be your different patterns in terms of, you know, finding, looking at here, head and shoulders, right? Right, just mapping it out, whatever it is, right? You know, so it's gonna, you can, once you understand those trends and you understand those patterns, you can map it out for yourself and draw the things on your chart, right? So I'm just clicking here, but it's going to give you all those things when you're making those, right? So this is your patterns tab. This one here, so the forecasting and measurement tools, this one here, I use this one from time to time, looking at long positions or short positions, right? So let's just say here on the long position, you have this. You can see this entry point here, boom. You hit this, and now you can raise this wherever, right? So if I'm entered here, I'm looking back in time to see where these levels are, right? So I really want to get it up to this level here. So I'm going to raise this up here to this, and it's going to put all of it there, right? It's going to tell you what your target is, the amount of move it's going to make, your P&L, the quantity, the risk to reward ratio, which I also talked about. It's going to tell you what your stop is. It's going to tell you how to trade this. It's going to give you everything to the T, right? So it's a really good tool to use. I use it from time to time. I don't always use it, but if I want to see something and not have to do the research manually, I leverage the technology to tell me, right? So if you're trading shares in this scenario, right, it's saying 12.20. That's the target. That's meaning it's a $12.20 move, which is a 23% ROI, right, from here, if you're trading shares. Now, this isn't related necessarily to options, but this is what that's basically saying, right? So this is a super cool tool to use. And then on the flip side, you have short position, right? So let me find, yeah. So let's see. We'll look at this right here, right? You can click this here. Move this down here, right? Yeah. So you move this down further to wherever that entry was, right? And it tells you the same thing. You've got the stop at 941. Basically, your stop is where, and then all of it's down here to the downside. So you end up having a $9 move in that scenario, right? Super cool tools to use. And then for price range, right? If I'm trading shares or I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that yet. All right, so if I'm looking at shares, for instance, right? And I'm looking at entry points, come back here. If you hit this little tab down here, it scrolls it to the present of wherever it's at. Let's just say entering here for the price range, right? So all I got to do is click on that. I don't need to do this little arrow again. I can just click on this little icon and it's going to automatically select it, right? So let's just say the entry is here. Looking back in time, I want to run that price range back up here, right? So it's basically a 43% ROI when it goes back, right? It's telling you what that data is, what that move is, right? $22 move, 43% trade to go back to its highs from this entry point. So this is the price range is a good tool to add to your charts from time to time. If you want more in-depth data, sorry, this one here. And I don't really use any of these other ones necessarily. The forecast, I'm not really using this tool very much. Yeah, those are the ones that I really use, the long and the short and the price range. I'll use the date range too sometimes, right? And then you could basically do them together by sort of making this box, right? Let's just say here, we go out this far. It ends up telling you, right? This being 229 days, right? And it tells you the overall volume, that sort of scenario. And then also, you know, what this basically down 26% from here to here of where this is, right? Those are really the only ones that I use for my chart from that point, right? And then this is for just icons and emojis to put on your chart if you want to. And then your measurement tool. And this is just measuring whatever it is, right? The bars, your time frames, in the same way that you could have just done it from measuring your date range that we just did. So taking that off, and then the measurement tool, and then you've obviously got the zoom. And okay, so if you use the magnet mode, it's going to snap everything together. Whatever you've drawn on your chart, your notes, whatever you've taken, you can hit that magnet button, and it's going to lock everything on your chart. So that way, when you leave Micron and you go to something else, you come back to Micron, it's still going to be there. It's still going to stay, right? And then you can lock these modes by doing that, right? And then you can obviously hide all of your drawings, erase them, anything you want to put in the trash, it's down here. And these are all your time frames that you switch from, just a different way of doing it from up here as opposed to down here. And then this is just certain time frames. You can create that custom range that you want to go to coming down here in this little calendar button down here. You can customize whatever range that is that you want to see in data if you want to do it quickly, right? So all super useful tools to use. All right, there was somebody that wanted me to look at a couple of things. I'm going to wrap this up, but I wanted to look at what you guys wanted me to look at real quick. Anyhow, if you guys have questions on TradingView, just hit me up in the Discord. I'm not an expert on the TradingView by any means, but I know enough to be able to help you guys fine tune what it is you're doing. So Nike, we looked at that. AI, ICPT, Baba, PayPal, BJ. All right. ICPT. So I shared this trade idea the other day. So here's the thing with a lot of trades, right? You just have to have patience. The thing is with pharmaceutical companies is that when the pharmaceuticals run, they really run. They run so hard, these biotech stocks and pharmaceuticals, and if you can catch them at the right point. Now, if you look at ICPT, the MACD is about to cross. It's still, yes, it's in consolidation, right? The real level of where this really breaks out is going to be right here above this 1144. When it breaks out of this candle here, it's going to end up hitting these other targets, right? You have the stepping stones, then it consolidates. But the overall chart itself, looking at the time frame continuity, it's still bullish. So I'm confident that this is still going to continue running. But biotech stocks move slow, as does energy, gas, oil. You have to have patience with these stocks. They don't have huge ATRs, average daily ranges, right? This only moves $1.20 a day. So there's not a whole lot of activity that you're going to see. But what you need to focus on is the setups. What are the setups saying? And then give yourself time on the contracts, right? And the thing, if you're trading options, you're not trading the share price when you're trading options, you're trading the premium cost of the contract. So where it's at in share price isn't necessarily relative to where it's going to be at contract price wise, and vice versa, right? But the setup on ICPT is still good, right? It's moving sideways. It had the momentum here. Now playing it, if you played your cards right, I saw it around in here somewhere, right? So you would have been able to take this from just under $10, right? And take this all the way up here, basically to where this candle is at 1107. It's exactly where this stopped. It's exactly where this stopped. So now that I have this level here at 1144, but seeing where it's at right now of where it got stopped at, I'm also probably going to put a level at 1104 or wherever this was, right? 1113. This becomes a strong resistance point. So you have to decide if you're going to stay in this trade through that, right? It's testing it. It's tested it almost twice already. So that's where I think that this is going to go, and kind of the outlook on that. Anytime that stocks get they don't have a lot of volume, and then they start to have this influx of option contracts and more volume, the internet gets a hold of it, and then things start to run. The setup for this is still good. So you just have to have the patience for it, right? And if you still have a couple of weeks on your contracts in options, you've got time. You've still got 2.5 weeks. So you have time. But you have to make the decision of, okay, by me holding this, what am I losing every day by holding it? And you need to assess that situation for yourself, if it's really worth it, right? Or if you just cut your losses where they're at and then roll those into the next play to try to get back the money that you lost. But any of these like slower moving stocks, you should really keep your levels tight and have good discipline when you're trading them, because also, even though they move slower, when they fall, they actually fall pretty quickly. So it's just important to just know what your strategy is. Yeah, Jason, the 6/16s, you got plenty of time. I would say, it's going into the end of the week. By next week, I believe it's the 6th, the week of the 6th. So I would say you're still okay with where you're at now of still holding it. It's still a good trade to have on your radar. What else? Somebody said Baba too, right? I was actually looking at Baba today. I was actually going to enter this trade, but I didn't like the options chain on Baba, so I didn't enter it. And I don't enter a lot of expensive trades, at least for call outs, because I like to find trades that are universally cheap for everybody. Not everybody has $300 or $400 to drop on one option contract. So I try to find things under $1 or, under $100 for people. And Baba's contracts are a little more expensive. So this is also why I didn't enter the trade, but I actually like this setup of Baba. I was looking at it earlier this morning. I was looking at Baba. I was looking at Visa. I'm actually annoyed that I didn't get into Visa, but I couldn't really watch the charts today at all. So I didn't get into it, but I liked those setups too. And with Baba, in terms of levels at this point, you see that the MACD is about to cross. So for this, I'm setting I would probably set a target for this on the lower end of the side at 85.62, right? Because it's the base of where all of this consolidates, the base of where the peak of where these touch, and then above 85.62, I'm really looking at this area right here, right? This would probably be my second target, is this gap, maybe even a little lower, right there at 90.68. But you also have to take into account these. So if I'm taking into account these, the intermediate level that I would look at where this is probably going to stop is at 88.46. Right? Because it runs, I'm always looking for 3 or 4 candles of where this touches and where it consolidates through. That's how I set my levels. But that's where I'm at on this. This is still bullish. I think this is a good trade to be in. You just, again, you also have to have patience with BABA too. BABA is super volatile. And yeah, that's my assessment of this. CVS. Luke says, is the call sweep associated TradingView? Call sweeps don't have anything to do with TradingView. TradingView is just a trading platform of where you're able to see, you know, the levels, the candlesticks, the charts. The call sweeps are totally different. Look at CVS. So for me, looking at CVS, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of room to move. Because if you look at this for the MACD, right, in the signal, you can see of where it got pushed down. You can basically trade off of the RSI and the MACD. It just duplicates it, right? It's hitting at the same levels every time, right? Which is right here. It's really struggling to get through this 69.73 level. If it does, chances are it hits this at 71.55. But I think CVS is really struggling to hit this, right? It's been consolidating at this 69.73 level, whatever it was that I just said, 69 something, 69.73. It's been consolidating here since the beginning of May. So I think it does have a good setup. There's good room for it to move here, but it's really got to break through that 69.73 level first. And I think it's going to struggle to do that. So me personally, I think that there's better opportunities out there than CVS, and CVS doesn't move that fast. So that's where I see that at. It's still bullish. It's still open tomorrow above 68. But I think this strong resistance point here is at 69. 69.73 is a really strong level that it's got to break through, that it's struggling to do it. You could play it. You could play it from 68.88 to 69.73 and just get out of the trade. But I wouldn't dump a whole lot of money into the trade based on how much it's getting rejected at this level. Eddie, look at SQ. All right, I'll do this SQ and then I got to wrap it up, y'all. So Square, yeah, Square's actually been moving pretty decent, I think. So this level that it really has to hold is a 62.14 ish. Yeah, 62.14. Above this level, the 62.14 is where I think that this has really got some nice gaps, right? I'm looking at this gap here and also this right here. This is probably the level of where I would set that, because it runs through all these, it runs through 4 other candles to the exact level. So above 62.14, chances are SQ is probably going to fill this gap to 64.37. That's how I see that going. But again, just like CVS, this 62.14 level is a really strong resistance point for it, right? You can see that it broke through it twice here within the last week, and it didn't hold it. So that's the biggest challenge of where it's at. But between 61.50 and 62.14, I don't know what the options contracts are on these, but you can play that channel. You can play this channel here. This would basically be your entry point. If you, let's just say you wanted to enter tomorrow, right? If you wanted to trade this small little channel, 6160 or like 6057, I think it was, right? I think it's like 57 to be more accurate. Let me get this accurate right here, right? So at 6158, you could play this channel, right? These are decent gaps in terms of the options world. This is still a really great trade right here. You could probably run up a 30 or a 40% trade just in this channel alone. Your entry point becomes 6158. Your target becomes 6214. And then what I would do in this scenario, if I do play that channel, I would sell the majority of my shares or my contracts, and then I would leave runners to hit this target at 64. That's how I would trade this one. John says, do you typically wait for a candle to close above or below a certain level, or does the wick of a candle give enough confirmation? I don't go off of the wicks. I go off of the bodies of the candles, because the bodies of the candles tell you what it will do. The wicks tell you what it could do, right? And for me, I want the guaranteed information, or to be sure in my analysis. So that's the difference between those two. So I'm always looking at the bodies for the levels, and then I set the wicks as alternate levels of just, I keep it in the back of my mind for runners. Like, this is what it could possibly do if it breaks through these the levels of these bodies. That's it, y'all. If I missed your question, if I missed a ticker that you wanted me to look at, tag me in the Discord. I'm happy to provide insight to it. I always appreciate when you guys ask me what I think about it, but I also want to know what you think about it. What do you see? What's your analysis? Because when I understand your analysis, that's where I can come in and fill the gap for you and help you see things differently, or offer a different perspective or a suggestion. So anytime you ask me what I think of certain things, add your thoughts to it. I appreciate it when you guys do that, because it just it makes you think about it rather than just being, spoon-fed an analysis. It helps me understand how your process is and the things that you're seeing. So anyhow, I appreciate you guys for tapping in. This will be recorded. It'll be uploaded on Sunday. And yeah, I'll see you guys in Discord tomorrow. All right. Be cool, y'all. Have a good night.